Call the dogs in because you're listening to the Fieldmaster Podcast. All right, everyone. Welcome back to episode number 5 of the Fieldmaster Podcast, brought to you by Sportsman's Pride Professional Dog Food. Mm-hmm. Ryan, I don't know how we got here.
It was a long way from Alabama.
Yes, it was. But
glad we're here.
I want to talk to you about changing up the studio.
Yeah.
To it being here.
This is an upgrade.
It definitely is. I don't know how we're going to go back, but you know what? This place is gorgeous. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, we should probably talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, where are we?
We are at High Point Lodge with Brad Donald. Welcome, Brad.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, appreciate it. So Brad Donald is the owner of High Point Lodge in Pierre, South Dakota. And this is, I should probably mention, Brad is a Sportsman's Pride Elite ambassador for us. And Brad, this place is gorgeous. It is stunning.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
When we pulled up here, you called me on the phone and you said, you see that house up on the hill over there? And I said, yeah, that's a really nice place. And you're like, yep, that's where we're going.
I thought I better point it out right from there as a kind of a good view.
You can see it from far, far away.
You can.
And it's up on the highest hill.
It is. Yeah, so
right on the river.
So, obviously you guys can see this giant, beautiful rock fireplace behind us, but what you can't see is directly behind, or I guess what we're looking at, is we're looking at the Missouri River. And we're right over, we're located on the bluffs that overlook the Missouri River. Mm-hmm. And so, Brad, this place has how many beds?
35 beds.
35 beds.
Queen beds and with their own bath. So there's plenty of room for the guys.
It is truly, if you are wanting to come pheasant hunting or duck hunting, geese, whatever it may be, I mean, this is like a sportsman's paradise.
And we'll make sure the visual people on YouTube can see this place. We're gonna splice in some video and stuff. Pictures that we've seen out here, because just looking this way, you could stare for hours.
I think that's what I was saying right before we started this is, you could look for hours just out these windows. It's absolutely gorgeous. But not only does it have a view, I mean, Brad, why don't you tell us a little bit? It's got 2 full bars.
2 full bars, a game room downstairs, foosball, shuffleboard table, 15-man steam room.
Yeah.
So just plenty of room,
It's very spacious. I mean, it's kind of, you've got your main hall, I guess is what you would call it, and then your rooms are on the wings on the outside, and you've got some rooms that are indoors on the interior, and then you got some where, if you pull up late one night or something like that, you can just
enter private entrance.
Yeah, private entrance to them, which is really nice because a lot of other places you go to, they kind of have one long hallway or something, and you've got to walk through everyone's kind of living quarters. Yeah,
like a bed and breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So, tell me about how this lodge got built, because there was a previous owner and stuff like that, and you just recently took over for High Point Lodge. Tell me kind of the story behind the original lodge.
It was built in 2008, and the gentleman that owned it used to go to Alaska hunting and fishing, and he just fell in love with the place in Alaska that he was at.
Right.
And he's just like, I'm going to build one like that. So it's in-floor heat, so you get up in the morning to go to the bathroom or the middle of the night, and the floor is warm on your feet. And
I didn't even know that part.
Yeah.
It's just
it's an extra
nice
selling point. Yeah.
It was like what, 9 degrees last night?
It was 9 degrees last night.
That would be great.
Yeah, it would be nice. And I think what is really cool is there's so much wildlife around us. I mean, just in the drive up, you saw geese, we saw a few pheasant, we saw deer. I mean, there is so much around us in this area. You're kind of right on close to a bend of the Missouri River and stuff, and so you get a lot of wildlife stopping in and stuff like that, which is really neat. I mean, like I said, this is truly a sportsman's paradise if you want to kind of get away to go on a hunt.
And I thought, I thought the same thing. It's just natural, and it's just a good just a good layout that God gave it. And, at the land that we hunt, we have thousands of acres of just great pheasant habitat. We have an artesian wells. We have plenty of water.
Yeah.
And water's a key, especially in areas out here, where it can just be dry. So plenty of water for the birds.
Yeah. Yeah, you were kind of, we got to tour around a little bit not too long ago. And, we were looking at all the pheasant and stuff like that. And there's just so many here. I mean, we've kind of traveled around and, we get to talk to different people. And we usually get to accompany them on like a hunt and stuff. And I don't know, I'm starting to think it's me, honestly. But, I don't think we'd have a problem getting some pheasant today if we walked out there.
Oh, no. You could probably run a few down.
Yeah, you probably could.
Well, I haven't seen you guys shoot yet.
Yeah,
hopefully you end up pulling a gun out. But
yeah, hopefully.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, if we've got dogs, then we will have no problem.
That's true.
We got dogs.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, so one of the other great things about the lodge is your proximity. I mean, you are incredibly close to a lot of amenities, but you are far enough away where you are still surrounded by wildlife in Pierre. So how far did you say you were from the airport?
Airport's about 11 miles, 15 miles.
So that's, I mean, it's a good distance, but I mean, currently, if you need to fly in somewhere, it's great that you can fly in somewhere so close and you don't have to drive so far to get here.
Right, we'll pick you up. You don't need a rental car. You just don't have to mess with some of that stuff.
Yeah, you got a little bus that they'll pick you up in, and you get greeted by one of the people here. It might even be you.
Hey, it might be.
Yeah, so used to coming out to these lodges and you fly into the closest major airport and you're looking at, I got to get a car, I got to drive an hour, I got to drive an hour and a half, whatever it is. But having Pierre so accessible is a huge help.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, not only that, but you're surrounded by other, recreational activities. So, a lot of people when they go to a lodge or something, they also ask, where's a golf course? Can I bring my clubs or something like that? And you're not far from a golf course either.
No, about the same distance from a golf course. Again, the river's there, great fishing.
Yeah.
Just a lot of things to do.
Yeah, and I mean, people who are listening to this, I kid you not. I mean, we're looking at the Missouri River, and you can, I don't think you may not build a pathway down to the river or anything, but
you could bird watch.
Yeah, you could bird watch from here. I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous. I can't stop talking about it. But all right, so let's go ahead and we'll take a quick commercial break, and then we'll get into pheasant hunting.
What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about hunting? Peace? Quiet? Nature?
Yeah, until Hick brings the action.
Brad Donald hosts some of the best pheasant hunting in the Midwest. With a lodge nestled in the Missouri River Bluffs and the pheasant hunting capital of the world, High Point Lodge is truly a wing shooter's paradise. Master dog trainer Brad Donald's dogs are fueled by sportsman's pride, giving them the stamina, strong eyes, and a powerful nose honed to lead the hunt so that pheasant is always on the menu. Brad trusts sportsman's pride for his pack because results don't lie. Experience the sportsman's pride difference. Developed by experts, trusted by legends. New Sportsman's Pride Field Master Dog Foods.
All right, so we're back with Brad Donald, a Sportsman's Pride Elite Ambassador. So, Brad, you are a pheasant hunter. I think it's in your blood.
Yes, sir.
Really. How long have you been pheasant hunting?
I started training dogs in 97. So started pheasant hunting way before that. But been guiding pheasants since 97, and it just kind of comes with the dogs.
Yeah, so what kind of made you go from just a pheasant hunter to a guide?
Probably losing birds or hunting with other dogs that just weren't that good. And
yeah.
It just was like, boy, the dog is such a key to it that I just wanted the best dog.
Yeah. Is that how your passion for dogs started, or how did you get into dogs?
It did. I had a cousin that worked with some dogs that was a big duck hunter, quail hunter, pheasant hunter. And just, he had all the dogs, and I just kind of started helping him, and it just kind of went from there.
Yeah.
So did you have dogs growing up that were also companions in your hunt, or was it more when you started doing guide stuff?
Probably a little bit more during guide stuff. As a kid, I had dogs, but not necessarily hunting dogs, more Heinz 57 that would retrieve, but not quite like I wanted them to. And then ended up going to college in South Dakota, and would go home with some buddies that had some ranches and some pheasant hunting, and it was unbelievable. And I remember one of my buddies saying, "Hey, don't bring your dog." And I'm like, "Why's that?" And he's like, "Well, we have too many birds. You know, we have dogs ruin the hunt." And I'm like, "Boy, he won't ruin the hunt. Just give me a shot at it." And it just kind of took over after that. You know, his dad wanted a dog, and then his uncle wanted a dog, and then neighbors. And that's kind of how I started training dogs full time.
Wow. Yeah, it's a lot of people that we talk to, you know, they start with just being an avid hunter, and then they're like, I kind of want to take it to the next step, or, you know, they kind of want to scratch that itch. And, you know, it sounds like the same story with you. You know, you just kind of want to take it to the next step.
Yeah.
And then
how much control over the end result can you have?
Yeah.
And getting down to like, well, I'm going to start the dogs.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to choose them and breed, or, you know, get the right dogs in there, do the training, and then all the way to you're owning a lodge and hosting all of these hunts.
And,
right?
you know, everybody asks me, they're like, "Hey, do you get to hunt a lot then and stuff?" You know, guiding does kind of affect that part, because you don't get to pull the trigger, but it's still like hunting.
Yeah.
You know, watching your dog and reading your dog and the style of your dog. So in your mind, when that bird gets up, you're kind of still pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
You're just not. But believe me, I still like to go out.
You got that bird up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still like to go out and do some hunting, but you don't get to quite as much.
Yeah, it's like leading a horse to water. I mean, you kind of like, you're bringing these people to the birds. It's on them to make sure that they actually get it.
It's true.
But so like we said, we're in South Dakota, and the Dakotas are known for their pheasant hunting. Is it South Dakota that's the pheasant hunting capital of the world?
You know, I believe so.
Yeah.
And that's what they say. You know, I know there's other states that have some good hunting, but South Dakota, you know, just doesn't have as many people and a lot of natural ground that might not be good enough to farm. So it's just great hunting.
So you bring up the natural ground and stuff, and you know, we kind of talked about it when we were hanging out yesterday. Was, you know, you leave your crops and stuff up, you don't harvest them and stuff, so that when it comes pheasant season time, they are, you know, able to eat and stuff and hang around. Is it really because of the geography that, you know, pheasant hang out in this area, or is it more this is just kind of like where the natural population has always been, and because they're not a migratory bird?
Nope, they're not a migratory bird. They were introduced to South Dakota, but again, just the lay of the land, maybe not so much chemical being sprayed, just other things.
Yeah,
I think have just kept the birds, because we get some harsh winters, but plenty of tree lines for them.
Yeah.
And by leaving that food, like you brought up, you know, it's just they don't have to go far for food. They don't have to go far for nesting, shelter, water. All of that is a key for success to have the population of birds that we have at High Point.
Wow, that's awesome.
Every year. And I know for a fact, for me at least, that South Dakota is the place for pheasant. Well, I drove from Alabama to South Dakota. I've done it twice now.
Yeah.
And as soon as I get past through Nebraska and I'm about to go into the Sioux City at the very bottom corner there,
Yep.
as soon as I hit that line, twice now I've seen a pheasant fly over my car on the highway.
They actually, South Dakota's hired that pheasant.
Yeah, they just put a line of pheasant right there.
Yeah.
Well,
I swear.
Thanks for not hitting him.
Yeah, I didn't. He flew. It was a rooster too. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we kind of mentioned it at the beginning of the episode, but High Point is in a very unique place because you mentioned you have an artesian well, you've got the tree lines, you leave the crops and stuff for the birds, but I can't over exaggerate when I say this. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of birds here. I mean, in your hunting land. And have you, in a way, cultivated that land to bring more birds in, or is it because of the natural features that are around?
With the water and the food and the CRP and the shelter belts, it's going to bring some birds in.
Now, when you say CRP, what is CRP?
You put them into different grasslands, native grasses, just things that the birds like.
Okay, got it. So it's like a food source for them. Got it. Okay. All right. And so one of the benefits of coming to High Point Lodge is you provide the dogs.
We do. The guides have their own dogs. I have my own dogs, and they're ready to go.
Yeah, they are. We've kind of been following along and working with some of them while we've been here. And I may have gotten taken out by one of them trying to get a good shot. And they're always ready to go.
Yeah,
they are. And, they do it for a living. The guides love their dogs. That's how they end up being a guide. And it just works hand in hand. And when the guys come up, I think sometimes they get more out of the dogs working than even hunting sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what's cool about that is like I know, so I have some family members who have gone pheasant hunting and stuff, but they had to bring their dog. And so it's like, you kind of they provide all the ammo and everything like that, but they don't provide the dog. And it's like the dog is like 75% of, if not more,
right,
the pheasant hunting experience. And so what's really nice is, you've been a trainer for so long, you've been a guide for so long that you've got world-class dogs that will come in and, it enhances your experience when you're here.
And we do welcome other dogs from other hunters. And, hunting without your dog sometimes it's just not the same hunt.
Right.
So we're like, bring him along,
Yeah.
And we do cross our fingers that he's a good one. But most of the guys, they do. They have great dogs.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So one of the questions that I had for you, kind of getting into the specifics of pheasant hunting with a dog and things like that, is how do you start the process of getting your dog trained to hunt pheasant?
Like if I'm training somebody else's dog, that 7-month range is pretty good. They start getting their permanent teeth in. Hopefully the owner's done some obedience and some retrieving. But if we're talking Labradors love to retrieve, but it's good to enhance that and work that as a pup. So I get them in and I make sure that obedience is good at first, and then we go into force fetching, collar conditioning, and then once that's pretty solid, then we start using birds. And during that obedience, we make sure that that dog has been shot over, and we're starting to work in the gunshot and working in some maybe dead birds, getting some feathers in their mouth.
Yeah.
So just not everything's a big shock to them.
Yeah.
But the key is once you've got that foundation and got the dog holding the bird and that force fetch is there, getting birds over them. And because that's what you're doing at the end of the day is you want that dog to be able to hunt birds. So show them some birds.
Yeah.
Get them over some birds.
So this kind of brings up one of the videos that we put out not too long ago, and someone asked, and now that we're here talking with you, I'd love to hear your answer, is how do you get a dog used to, shooting? Because that can be, obviously they have a very heightened sense of sound and everything like that, compared to us. How do you get a dog used to that?
You can start off, a lot of people have different methods, but feel free to drop a pan, slam a door once in a while, letting that dog be around some noises where he's just not startled, and then I go with somebody going out there pretty just kind of like a soccer field or something real short grass where the dog's going to succeed. And hey, throw a bumper, shoot a cap gun, which would be like a 22 round. And then that dog's going to do that. And then you're going to work up to a 20 gauge. And then, moving him back a little farther, working with a 12 gauge. And when he's relating that with retrieving or hunting with the bird, they most of the time it goes successfully.
So I would imagine that the gunshot would become an exciting thing because then they're about to go get a bird.
Yep, and I feel like if the dog is seeing somebody raise their hand and shooting a cap gun, it's not as startling as them working 10 yards in front of you and hearing this blast right behind their head and being like, wow, what was that?
Yeah.
So you do work into that. That's a good subject to cover.
Yeah. Well, so what I learned today is I can drop a pan on my kitchen floor and just be like, sorry, I'm just trying to train. That's it. And my wife's going to be like, what are you talking about?
Honey, Oreo's going to be a pheasant dog.
Yeah.
I'm just the gun dog.
Maybe use a steel pan, not a glass pan.
Yeah. I'm going to go back home and be like, hey, Gina, I'm going to train Oreo to be a pheasant.
Stop slamming the door.
Just going to slam the door everywhere and just drop pans. But that's a good point. I mean, because, like my dog, for example, if I did that right now, she would run to the next room. And, that was an interesting comment that I just thought of, while we were sitting here with you. So thanks for that. So one of the other kind of key points we've talked about, and we're going to release some other videos, some pro tips from Brad, but one of them is teaching your dog to flush out a bird, because that is probably, I don't know if you would agree, but from what I've seen, that is one of like the key points when it comes to a pheasant hunt, is getting that dog up in the air.
I've only been pheasant hunting a couple of times, but that's the most entertaining and just fulfilling thing to watch these dogs work.
And I just had a guy say it, and I've been around it so much I kind of forgot, guys, but the sound of the flush, and the dog shooting in and the bird blasting up, and the sound of that, I just kind of forgot about it because I see it every day. But it is kind of interesting on how other people ask that about the flush, where that dog, he smells him, and he gets to know what that bird is, and he'll go in there. And he wants, of course, he wants to catch the bird, but that's when that bird busts out of that cover, and it all comes after that.
Yeah, it's really a beautiful sight to see, and that's where you get like so many iconic pictures that like people will have paintings of on their wall and stuff like that, because it's really a super cool, unique experience.
And you're trying to set up the dogs for success, right? Like as far as the downwind type thing.
Yeah, working them into the wind. Right. But back to the training of it, when I'm throwing birds or have wings wrapped around a dummy, just constantly letting that dog know that's what he wants. That's what he's supposed to get. Yep. And then you go into the bird.
Yeah. So is there a certain way, because, like you said, those pheasants are undercover and they're, trying to hide and everything. Do you go out kind of like beforehand and you will plant one and try to have them find it that way? Or is it more just like with a bumper or a dummy or something, you're just throwing it in the air? And
I start with a bumper, then with wings, and then maybe a dead bird, and then I might hobble a bird so the dog can see that and have him on leash, so he really wants to go get it. So the bird will take off running and then start to fly. So he sees everything. So when he goes into that bird and he can't see it, but he can smell it, it can startle a dog.
Yeah.
You've got the bird coming up, which is making the noise, and then you got me shooting the bird behind the dog. But when you put it all together, it's kind of like that firecracker that wick went a little faster than you thought.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. So that's why you just take everything step by step and kind of go slow.
Yeah. Really, it sounds like kind of any dog training. Like you progressively get there, even with a sit or a stay or anything like that. And it's amazing to see it progress into something so elite.
Yeah, and that's one of the other questions that I had for you as well is, there is a huge safety aspect when it comes to pheasant hunting because you have the dogs flushing. You also have who knows how many other, shooters out there with you. And you want to make sure that, you're not hitting anyone or, there's obviously a ton of safety involved. What is the proper distance that, your dog should be away from you when it is flushing out? Do you want to be kind of like right up next to them, or do you want to have, a little bit of distance between them?
That's tough because it's going to change every time. You're going to step on a bird sometimes, if the weather's right, or if you got a little snow on the ground and those birds are holding tight. I've stepped on them. I've had dogs get them up right behind me. And then you turn around and again, where's your gun at? Right. That's why that barrel needs to be in the air, like you said. But a distance, if a bird gets up close, you're fine as long as he's high enough. Like we always talk, that blue sky, making sure that you can see a foot of blue sky. It's all depends on how it happens.
Conditions and things like that. Got it. All right. So one of the other things that, we wanted to chat with you about is recovery. So pheasant hunting, those dogs are they're working birds left and right. Like we said, you get hundreds of birds here. So they are constantly going, and recovery is such a big part that I don't think that people understand. Can you kind of talk to us about how you let your dogs recover? What does their recovery look like after a long hunt?
You bet. So we have some preserve ground and we got some just private ground, so we can start hunting September 1st and go all the way to March 31st. So in the Dakotas, it can be snowing one day and 2 hours later the sun's shining and it's getting 60 degrees. So the temperature is
sounds like today. Yeah. We drove here, it was 8 degrees and now the sun's shining and it's gorgeous outside
already. But in the train's not too tough, or nothing like that, but working your dog, rotating other dogs in, but plenty of water, again, and plenty of rest, but it all starts with a good food. And I sure like Sportsman's Pride.
We appreciate that.
It all kind of starts with a good food. Look at our bodies too.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, mine's telling me I'm getting plenty of good food here lately.
Well, you guys told me that camera puts 40 pounds on a guy, so that's why I'm like,
that's right.
Well, we can take it off too.
Okay, good.
We'll take it off. Yeah. All right. So if someone came to High Point Lodge, what can they expect out of, let's say, I think you said you do 3-day packages, or, really you can stay however long you'd like. But kind of tell us what people would expect from High Point Lodge.
We'll set up any package that they want, but let's just go with 3-night, 3-day. They get here that evening. We'll have some appetizers. Then go into the main meals, usually about 7 o'clock. And if it's steak or pork chops or ribs or brisket, whatever the girls might have, we have great cooks and great help. And then after the meal, hit the rack. Breakfast will be at, breakfast is at 8. We head out to the field at 9. Have soup and sandwich for lunch, get back in the afternoon and start over again with some appetizers and meet at the bar and then go into supper. So it might sound like you're eating a lot, but you put on a few miles out there hunting too, and I like to eat.
Yeah.
Well, you might want to eat a lot with how good the food is. It's impressive.
Yeah, we've been privy to some of the meals, and they've been incredible.
So good. You have people asking for it outside of this.
Yeah, thanks. We do some catering. Mm-hmm. We like to smoke different meats for people. So again, that kind of goes in hand in hand.
Well, for someone, you're building smokers. You're smoking meat. You're doing it all.
Yeah, you and I were kind of geeking out about that. I think it was last night or 2 nights ago, talking about smokers because I have just a little, small smoker, and it is a pain to run because it's just charcoal and wood. But you've got these giant ones that you've built yourself out of old propane tanks, and
with some of the groups, we'll take a group of 1 and we'll take a group of 30. So you throw 30 racks of ribs on, you need a little space.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah, and you guys have a full-size commercial kitchen too, so I would imagine even if a group wanted to come in and host a little party or something, you could accommodate that as
yes,
well.
Sir. You bet.
That's great. All right, so we've been talking kind of, a lot about pheasant hunting and things like that. What is your, let's say your favorite pheasant hunting story that you've got?
Boy, I've got a lot of them. But I guess if I think about it now, I kind of like to see that dad and son, or dad and daughter, or grandpa, dad and son, for doing it 20-some years. Now I'm seeing grandpa, dad, and son, or daughter. It's just kind of neat to see how it can be such a family deal.
Yeah.
And we have spouses comes that might not hunt, that just come and stay, and it's just neat getting to know different families and how you just get attached to people and you just really get to know them. And we get hunters from all over, and I get to go see them once in a while too.
That's true. It's so true that hunting is such a generational sport.
And with the pheasant hunting, it's not like you're sitting in a stand by yourself, or it's not like you got to be quiet. You're out there in a group, like I said, from 1 to 20, and everybody's making fun of each other for missing something or, just anything.
Yeah,
so
seeing a bird run down the line.
camaraderie of it is fun that way.
Yeah, it's very relaxed. It's very different from like a deer hunting, like you said, where you got to go out to your stand like 2 hours early and try not to have your teeth be rattling the whole time so you don't scare away a deer. Yeah, one of the things talking about like that generational, families coming out to do it is, I told my grandfather that I was coming up here, and he had some choice words for me because he's never been pheasant hunting, and so I'll have to book a trip for us, and we'll come up and spend a few days here. And
well, I look forward to meeting him.
Yeah, he can be a handful. He'll keep you on your toes, that's for sure.
Well, we'll put him in the thick stuff.
Yeah, there you go. Slow him down a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's no slowing him down. I know that for sure.
And back to that, we get, I'm not saying a certain age, but we had an 84-year-old general sitting on a bucket blocking just because of his legs or his knees weren't working right.
Yeah.
We set him on a bucket at the end of the field, and boom, he's dropping 11 birds, and the other guys are like, I want to block now. And I'm like, you're not old enough to yet.
You're not old enough to block.
That's reserved. The bucket's reserved for a certain age. You earn the bucket as you get up. That's really nice. Yeah, we had Drew Abel, good friend of mine, on the podcast too, and he was telling us when he was on, he had just taken his son. Was it deer hunting or was it?
Yeah, I think it was deer.
I think it was deer hunting for the first time, and he didn't get anything, but his son shot for the first time, and you can just see, him lighten up and stuff like that. So it's really cool. That's something that I really admire about hunting. Is it's something that is generational. You can do it with your kids, you can do it with grandkids, and that's really neat. So,
yes, it is.
Yeah. So we've been talking a lot about, family and things like that. And how did you, was it your dad or your grandfather or something that got you started hunting?
Yeah, I remember hunting rabbits with my grandpa, and then my dad was kind of a wing shooter. So we had some quail and partridge, and we got doing that. And again, we didn't have a dog. I was kind of the dog, but I got doing that, and
Did you say you were kind of the dog?
He was the dog.
He was the dog.
kind of the dog.
Grandpa was on the bucket.
Go get that.
Yeah, you go get the bird.
I can imagine.
So just kind of got hunting that way, and got my kids into hunting. It seemed like if I had a gun in my kid's hand, maybe the video game wasn't. And just spent some good time outdoors, Yeah. And again, then dogs came into effect in his life and her life, and then it was just funner than with having a dog.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
they still hunt, and hopefully someday I'll have some grandkids that do too.
Yeah, so your kids are off. Your daughter just finished school, and she's a nurse, and your son is still in school playing football. So do they get to come back home often to hunt?
They do. You know, just again, Brooks just done with college and into her first career for a year, so it's busy nursing, and Bo with football. It's been tough getting home, but he does break off to get home, even if it's just for a half a day. And it's a 2.5 hour drive, just that want to get with his dog and do some hunting. So
yeah.
Well, if I knew I was coming home and hunting here, I would be home
I would
about
be home.
every weekend.
Yeah, I would be home all the time. All of my friends would come with me because I'm coming back here. Absolutely. So when you were, kind of growing up and your grandfather was, you said rabbit hunting?
Mostly rabbit hunting he did.
So do you do any rabbit hunting at all now?
I don't, because I'm always getting on the dogs for chasing rabbits in the trees. And I'm always yelling, don't shoot on the ground, guys.
Yeah.
So I've gotten to be like, I ignore the rabbits so much because it can get me.
Breaking the rules.
Yeah,
It could. Yeah.
But not that I would be opposed of rabbit hunting with some good beagles.
I wonder if that's like a generation away from us. Like I know my grandfather also hunted rabbits, and I don't hunt rabbits at all, and I wonder if that kind of has gone away a little bit. But we've got people in the Carolinas and stuff who own beagles and things like that. I bet they still do some rabbit hunting, because that's what beagles were bred to do. Really, So that's interesting. So one of the things we were talking about a little bit before, and your son has a big interest in the guide, and he loves working with his dogs. And so do you think that one day he might continue to take on more of a guide role?
I hope so. I've kind of worked him sometimes, maybe a little too hard. I hope he's not scared that he can't come home, but Mom cooks for him pretty good too, so I think he's missing some of them meals, but
that helps.
Well, he's the youngest, and so
I hope he does come back, and I foresee it, but
that's cool.
He's smarter than I am too, so who knows what he'll end up doing.
I think that's what you hope for your kids. I've got one on the way, and I hope that she's smarter than I am, because there's days I wonder how I made it.
I think just as long as they're doing what they love and they get some time outdoors, and they're good.
You're
Absolutely,
exactly right.
absolutely,
Exactly right.
Yep, 100%. So, one of the kind of the final questions that I had for you is, we talked about it a little bit over dinner. I think it was last night, but there's so many different dog breeds that you can have for pheasant hunting. And, you obviously being in South Dakota are partial to labs, and you've got some of the biggest labs I have ever seen in my life. I mean, their paw is like the size of my hand. But can you talk to us about how kind of the different region that you're in, what dog you may or may not want to have?
There's a lot of great breeds out there. I did pick the lab just because of getting the retrieve down. Mm-hmm. We're fortunate to have quite a few birds, so sometimes the dog doesn't have to maybe search as far. But we get guys that bring springers that work tremendously hard and are just great at it, and to the Drothar, to the pointers. So it is nice. We have a lot of different terrain where we have the grass and we have the standing corn, but we have shorter milo. We hunt some millet and some spring wheat fields. And so if you come to High Point and you bring your dog, we have different terrain for a lot of different breeds of dogs.
Yeah, that does make the hunt even more exciting. Stepping into a completely different field. on each run.
Yeah, it doesn't look the same. Every field can be unique, or you can have multiple different types in one, section. It's really neat.
And back to like how you were saying, which dog should you run or something? I got dogs that are smaller and do better in the heat, and then I've got bigger sized dogs that do good in the heat too. So just again, being able to read your dog and knowing which one's best for which day you're hunting.
Yeah, it's really important to get to know your dog, get to know how they work, and like we talked about earlier, that dog's body language is incredibly important, and understanding its mannerisms when you're out in the field, and that's really important. Yeah,
but back to that, like the biggest dog I've ever seen. I don't know if you can work it. It didn't sound too bad, but a lot of people don't like the big labs.
Yeah.
They think they're lazy.
I don't know why.
They think they're lazy. They think that they can't cover ground. If it couldn't, I wouldn't have them. But a lot of people will tell me at my kennel, they'll be like, "You got the smallest labs I've ever seen." And I'm like, "Did you ever see a fat man run track?" You know what I mean? I want dogs to get out there and work harder so I don't have to.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't think it hurt anything.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. We don't have a lot of people who are partial to breeds, really. They're kind of like what you were describing. They are more focused on the dog working and things like that.
I tried to cover that. I mean, I definitely like labs the best out of all that I've said for where I live, but
it's completely fine to be partial. I mean, we've got in like the duck world, retrievers are fine to be even like black retrievers. But it's just like I just want black retrievers.
Right. Yeah. And there's so many people that just want different. I mean, with people, with the society today, they just want different.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing wrong with tattoos, but look how they've came from when I was in school, nobody had one unless you were in the service, to now, you just a lot, but like dogs, you got silver labs, you've got labradoodles, you've got
trends.
They're bringing out shit that, wow.
Yeah. It's like,
how different do we really need to be?
Yeah. Okay, Brad. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us on the Field Master podcast. We've greatly enjoyed the view, and, setting up here, it's very different from our setup back home. And like I said, we'll set up here, every month, and we can just hang out here for a while. How does that sound?
There's a few beds, right?
There's at least enough beds for us.
I want to say thank you guys. Just the work that you've put in it. We've had other people do this, and boy, they didn't put the work and effort that I see in you guys. And it all comes back to the dog food and sportsman's pride. That's what brought us all together. And,
yes.
And couldn't be more happier about the dog food, so I appreciate it.
Well, thanks a lot, Brad.
We love your dogs.
Yeah, we
fantastic.
Do. We do.
The way you treat them and what you brought them up to do.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Even though Hick took me out yesterday, I'm still love Hick.
We were just trying to show you what kind of strength the dog food gives you.
Oh, they got some power. That's for sure.
Well, you smelled like a dog biscuit.
You did. I think we were shooting some stuff earlier, so I probably still had one in my pocket. He was just coming to get it.
Keep doing what you're doing, guys, and I hope you can see that you surely love your jobs because you do a good job at it.
Well, thanks, Brad. We appreciate that. Thanks for listening to the Field Master podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media at sportsmans_pride. And if you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, be sure that you subscribe on your favorite podcast app like Apple or Spotify. And if you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify, be sure to check out our YouTube page where you can see this beautiful view of High Point Lodge. Make sure to leave a thumbs up and like and review the podcast. And also be sure to check out Brad at High Point Lodge or highpointlabradors.com to come book a stay. Come shoot some pheasant out here in South Dakota.
Check us out.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, guys.